the first thing I wanna say is, how many times have you heard this one? Why do we need research if if we know who our users, what our users want, if we already know what they need, if we don't need to do research, if Steve Jobs, blah, 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 or Henry Ford, blah, blah, blah. How many times have you heard phrases like this? Well, pretty sure a lot. And today I'm here to be a bit optimistic and tell you that we might be past this already. We might start to see the end of this behavior, the end of this question. And there's some reasons to it. I mean, there are more and more companies that are understanding and valuing research and how research can impact an organization, can impact a product, can impact a team. You can see this here. This is from user interviews, state of user research report from already last year, because we're in January. So from last year, it says like more and more, especially in leadership, they are valuing research. And these numbers from 2024 are better already than the ones in 2023, which are already better than the ones in 2022. So we see we are on a good trajectory. So people in different parts of the organization are understanding what we do and are valuing it, and we have some buy-in in that regard. But there are things that are happening in different parts, and like we have the rise of AI, we have product discovery, we have research democratization. There are many things happening, and the fact that these things exist mean that companies are hungry for insights and they want to understand customers more. They want to learn more. They want to put users and together with the business in terms of importance. So they want to do that. So companies are hungry for insights, but they don't seem to be so hungry for researchers. And this can be tricky for us because it might change the landscape overall. Let's look at some data. This is from Macy's Future of User Research report, also from last year. Here it says that 75% of the companies that responding are planning on scaling the research practice or scaling research, but only 20% of them are planning on hiring additional researchers. So from 75, 20% want to hire more researchers. This is interesting to take a look at. Here's another data point. Last year, research team with 0 dedicated researchers have the highest number from the last 5. So we're seeing more teams where research happens and there are no researchers around or no dedicated researcher around. Which then pops up the question, and this is a change from the original question I started with. Why do we need researchers? Why do we need researchers if can also do research? And this is putting us as researchers in a delicate spot or in a delicate conversation that we need to tackle wisely, and we need to think how to move forward wisely. So this sparked the battle for research. So when you see other roles, could be designers, PM, engineers, marketing, whatever, doing research or research-like activities, then we can also discuss what do we consider research or not, or to what standard. But let's not talk about that. Let's focus on the overall. Who owns research? What do we consider research? When does research start? Does it start when there's a researcher in the company? Does it start before? Is it something we can all do? Bezos Sirjani says that research starts when the founders are looking for product market fit. So really at the genesis of a company, if you're a startup and you're looking for that and you're talking to customers or going to all books like Steve Blank's 4 Steps to Epiphany, this kind of books that talk about getting out of the building and talking to people. Is that research? Do we consider? So it's a bit of a fuzzy conversation, but we should proceed with we should be careful with that, and we should proceed wisely, and we should think of this. Okay, how can we then position ourselves differently? So we need to think, what do researchers bring? How do researchers bring value to the company? What's our What do we bring to the table? What makes us special? What makes us different? What makes us needed, if you want? And I think that in this regard, and I'm going to borrow this noun verb thing from Dr. Ari Zalmanov, who, by the way, you can follow him. He's amazing. He talks about research as a verb, or to research as a verb, and researcher as a noun. So researcher is the person conducting research, and to research is the verb. And we pair for quite some time the value very closely. So we are the person who does research, and we do research, and we and research, we are the same thing. So we paired our value. And what happened here is that we started to see research happen. Could be good quality, could be lower quality, could be better, you name it. But we see some stuff or research-like activities happening and no researchers at site. So this poses a question: do we need researchers? And this is what's happening. Or these conversations are happening right now in this day. So this is a shift of paradigm. This might change the size of teams or how companies approach research or the research role altogether. And we still need to think that when we talk about research or researcher as a role, not many companies have researchers. So research is still a position that is not a stable company it's not a stable position in every company. So you have companies that maybe are hiring their first researcher now, maybe they will hire in the future. So the majority of companies don't have research yet. And I know that with everything that I just said, I might sound a little dramatic or a little bit negative. I don't know what you're saying in the comments. I'm also curious of how you feel so far about the talk. But we also need to think that many companies can hire researchers, and there's a lot of potential for researchers there. There's a lot of potential for first researchers in companies. So companies that now realize, okay, if research is important. Maybe if we bring someone in, we can take this to a different level. So this is where this conversation is going, or where this my take on this is basically we should change how first researchers go about creating a position or the role of the first researcher. That way we can be successful in more companies that don't have research so far or didn't have research before. So maybe it's time to reshuffle. Maybe it's time to think in other terms. Maybe this pairing of our value is just conducting the research, or we're the person who conducts the research or does this or answers questions, and just from there take it a little bit to the side and maybe think in a different way. Of course, that's a core part of our job, and I'm not saying by any means throw this away, let's discard this, let's change what we do. But maybe it's time to mix and reshuffle our role a little bit. So today I want to talk about the way of the first researcher, and this also has been my path, as I said at the beginning, being the first researcher and trying to do research, and then I noticed that I had to do many other things, and in the end that became part of my role, and that also doing those things is what made me successful as a first researcher. So in order to have more researchers in companies and have more successful first researchers, I will advise you to build three things. The whole mindset where these three things are based on is this change from being finders to being builders. So what do I mean with finders and builders? Well, when researchers join a company, and I am included in that list, we go first, by default, we go to the finder's mindset. We go, okay, we need to find out stuff, we need to discover, we need to answer questions, we go and look for data, and we go and find. And that's great. Of course, we should keep doing that. But our role maybe should shift a little bit into becoming builders of a practice, builders of something that's larger than just us, because that's what's going to make research successful at the company you're joining. So the three key things you should build as a first researcher. Of course, there are plenty of things you can build or that I would recommend you to build, but let's focus on three just for the sake of time. So these are building a research culture, building infrastructure, and building a voice. Let's start with building a research culture. Well, maybe building a culture sounds a bit like maybe too grandiloquent, like, oh, I build the culture. Here's the researcher. Here comes the culture. Here comes the research. Of course, this is more of a collective effort. This is something you all as a team work on and you all create together. But what I mean with this is like become an enabler of a mindset shift. So what you want in this case, and or what I mean with building a culture, is that you want to be helping the whole organization learn more and better. What you want is you want to empower them and you want to help them, whether to find out stuff on their own, to make sense of what they find, and to overall increase the company knowledge. So the more the company learns and the better it learns, the better decisions can be made. So you need to think that researchers by default are outnumbered. Even if we have a team of researchers, usually we are outnumbered. So we have, I mean, these are not exact numbers, but we usually have it's like five, 1, 5, and 10. So you have one researcher per 5 designers, maybe per 10 engineers or 5 product managers. So we are always outnumbered. So usually a researcher joins and they're like maybe 15 engineers in on 5 designers, 10 product managers. We show up late to the party usually. So we are numbered. If you want to do all, like, we want to answer all the questions, it will be impossible. And as a first researcher, when you are just alone, that's even worse. You're definitely outnumbered. So you need to think different. You need to, instead of just going and finding, you need to maybe level up everybody's research game. Help them be better at finding out stuff and making sense of stuff. It's both. And this is not maybe you're thinking, oh, you're just advocating for the democratization of research. Well, not necessarily, and we can then discuss theoretically what that means. But I'm being realistic with this is that if you try to tackle all the projects that will come your way and answer all the questions that will come your way, you are set up for failure, because you're just failure or burnout, you choose. So you need to be smart about this and you need to think in a different way. So let's use, as I said at the beginning, I'm Argentinian and I love football. Also, I mean, if for those who are in, this is also like Condense is a German company, so a big. Okay, no, I shouldn't have brought the topic of Germany, Argentina, and football. Maybe we'll leave that for another day. So I love football and I like using football analogies and soccer for those in the US. I don't know why you call it that, by the way, but so when researchers sometimes, and this is connected to the analogy I used before, we adopt the mindset of strikers, which is, hey, I want to score goals, I want to deliver projects, I want to deliver answers to the questions, I want to score. So it's basically you focus on that, and that's great. Of course, that will be part of your role, and that's part of the core of a researcher, delivering answers to questions. But in order to be successful as the first researcher, I want you to be more like this, more like him. Yeah, I'm not meaning the best player in the sport ever. What I mean is I want you to be a playmaker. I want you to think different. I want you to elevate everybody's game and help out and move the ball around. So the reason I picked Messi for this is not because I'm Argentinian and I love Messi, but also because he's one of the best playmakers ever. When he's on the field, the whole team plays better. So by passing and moving and creating plays and the strategy, whatever, but he makes everybody play better. And that's the mindset that I want you to adopt. Instead of just focusing on, yeah, give me the ball, I wanna deliver a project, I wanna deliver an insight, be like, okay, how can I help everybody? So is marketing sending a survey? Okay, I get near and say, hey, can I help you with that survey? Can I make that survey better so you can learn better? Product is talking to customer. How can I help you be better at that? How can I avoid? How can I help you avoid leading questions or you name it? So this kind of thing. This is what I mean with being playmaker. Being a playmaker. Just get close to the action and help them out. This way you elevate the game, because it's only you as a first researcher, so you have no other choice. And also, this is a virtuous cycle. The more people value learning from customers or users, the more research overall is valued and the better for everybody. And ultimately, what you want to do is you want to influence decisions. And this brings me to the next point of the research culture. So the most important things we should influence as researchers is our decisions. And this can be influenced directly. So by as the striker again, we deliver answers, we deliver a project, we deliver, or by elevating everybody's game and helping them also make sense of what they find. That's also part of the playmaking, right? So this is by helping everybody be learning more and better. So usually the thing with decision is that there are different levels, and we, if we just focus on, if we go in striker mode, we just focus on only one of them. So there are different types of decisions inside a company. So some are like, yeah, this is a high level, we should change our pricing plans, or maybe something lower level, like should we make this button red? So should we change the pricing plans? Strategic, maybe involves a lot of money, ARR, budget for many teams. Versus should we change? Should we put this button red? Of course, that's also valuable on a different level. It might change conversion rate or whatever, but you can see the difference between both of them. And a lot of people nowadays are talking about researchers doing strategic research, and that's completely fair. I think that's a really good use of a researcher's time and capacity and expertise. That's also why I insist on keeping the striker part. I mean, as a playmaker, you can also score goals. That's what I would say. But usually we are not close to those decisions. So normally, if you are the first researcher, I would say sometimes yeah, but the majority of times you need to kind of spread the word about research and how to interact with research and think of research and or customer input. So you need to build your way up. So it's not that I mean, if it's your case, really you're really lucky, and I congrats. But I normally when you join a company, you're not involved directly in, okay, how we let's change the pricing plan, let's change the strategy. You need to build the way up there. Also, because there are many teams involved, the higher you go, there are, like, of course, there are a lot of interest and a lot of different things, and maybe research is not the only thing they look at, and you need to, that's a completely different power game, so to say. But what I mean with decisions then influencing is like we should influence the one in between. So at the beginning, you might start close to something like, should we make this button red? But then if you start empowering your team and if you start becoming this playmaker, maybe these decisions can be based on actual user feedback, but then they're undertaken by someone else in the team. So you go from there, and then you can unlock the next level, and then you're involved in other projects, and maybe then you can also help the team. And the more, this is what I mean again with the virtuous cycle. So the more people understand research and become better, then you can start going up, and then you can probably build your ladder up towards higher level decisions or more strategic decisions. This is not always the case, but it's pretty much, in my experience, it was pretty much like that. So I always join, and they were like, "What's a researcher? Can I eat that? What is that?" It's like, so that was the case. So I had to build my way up to higher level decisions, and I did that by helping others take stuff from my plate and helping them be better at learning. What you want ultimately is you want to increase the surface of your impact. So as I said, the impact of a researcher could be linear. So you find something out, you deliver, then this is your impact. Or you can say you change the culture in a way that research has a central place now, and your impact is exponential. That's what you want to ultimately achieve. So apart from collecting, one important part is synthesis. So it's not just let's be better at collecting data and you help out with the survey and so on, but also making sense of data and thinking. Usually when you join a company as a first researcher, it's usually the case that people don't know how to handle customer feedback, and maybe they say, "Oh, just two users said that, let's go for that." And you need to help them make sense and teach them how to triangulate, and it kind of becomes sort of like a personal trainer inside the company, so you can teach them how to do certain exercise. That's another analogy that works pretty well for my point. As I said, you want to help drive decisions that are beneficial, and whether you take them or someone else in the team takes them or senior management takes them, you want to drive those directly or indirectly. The second thing that I recommend building is infrastructure. And when I think of infrastructure, I like dividing it into two levels of infrastructure. So you have the operations infrastructure, which is basically the operative system of your research practice. So basically the things that help research happen. So this could be participant management, tooling, template, compliance, a repository then later on if you have time. I didn't include here because this is, I mean, there's so many things you need to take care of first, but a repository is definitely the case. So building, and I know this, for some people this is obvious, but now there's a lot of focus on research operations, and it's great that this is happening. And I think that operations is a key part of the first researcher role. So when you're the first researcher, there is a part for playmaking, there's a part for being a striker and scoring goals, and there's also a part for building infrastructure. You also need to wear the research operations hat, because if you don't build this, then the whole practice won't work. If you don't have a system, a clear way that's scalable to recruit participants, like to get the right people the right way, being compliant with the privacy laws, especially if you're in Europe, if you don't have templates for reaching out, and so there are many things you need to set up. And also, if you are enabling others to become better, you can help with trainings, and you need to set up the tooling and everything, so you enable more research to happen throughout the organization. The second bit of the operations bit, of the infrastructure bit, is the knowledge infrastructure, and this is more connected to the repository thing that I said. What you want with this part is not just building like, okay, a repository just because we need to check, but basically what you want is you want to build infrastructure that helps knowledge flow throughout the organization. The largest challenge, or the biggest challenge with knowledge, is that it's coming from many ways or in different teams within the organization. So UX or researchers are not the only one generating or finding out stuff. You also have data coming from sales, from product, customer support. Maybe you have tickets, or you have win or loss. Why did we win or lose deals if you're working B2B? Or maybe product is doing something, or you have stuff from data. So I always encourage researchers to start thinking a little bit larger. This is more like system thinking. So how can you connect the output that's coming from different teams in a way that everybody can benefit from that, can learn from that? This is again connected to the playmaker bit. So you need to connect all the plays here. You need to connect different sources, and this way you can also ensure that whatever information you have is higher quality and is and ready to consume. And this is what I call insight stream. But also, again, you have the building a repository. So when you're conducting research, or when people in the team are conducting research, it's great to have a place that's organized, that you can find out stuff, that you can find stuff quickly, that you can connect with stuff, that you avoid repeating research, or answering the question, or asking the questions in different projects. So it's good that you have this, because also this is a spot for triangulation. So if you have one centralized place, if you want, you can use Condense for that. I used that and I loved it, but that's another conversation. But you can do that, and this way you can help everybody get those insights, or you can give this spot so people can triangulate and get that high quality insights that they will help them make better decisions in the long run. The last point, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is building a voice. And sometimes as researchers, and we refrain from expressing our opinions. We talk about the playmaker, and we say, yeah, great, you help everybody, and you're helping them be better at that and making sense. But sometimes we are lost. Our voice is lost in between. So we need to remember that researchers are the experts on insights. We are that's core. Even if we wear whatever hat you want, that's core. So we know, like, we can help others make sense of stuff and connect, and this is our jam. This is our thing, and we need to remember that. And that way, we should never shy away from giving counsel. We should never shy away from giving recommendations with conviction, so to say. So sometimes and I heard this a lot, and I used to do that at the beginning. It's like, oh, I'm the researcher, I'm just presenting you data, and it's up to you then what you do. And then other stakeholders, and they move data around, and they kind of mix it with something or interpret it in a different way. And that's fair if they want to do that. It's their problem in the end. But But sometimes I think there's an opportunity lost there. And I think that researchers, we should step up and always have a voice and always build that and always give counsel. What you want is you want to develop a point of view and show a way forward and say, yeah, this is what you want to do. You want to act as a consultant, as a counselor. This is what you should be doing. This is important for the business. You should be that voice driving that and not just like taking the back seat. It's not, hey, you do it, but let me help you with that. This is what I advise. This is what I believe we should do. So we talked about building a research culture. We talked about building the infrastructure and the voice. The research culture is this mindset shift of not just conducting research, but then opening up the game and helping everybody be better at learning and actually helping them learn more and better. So this way, the more information is around, the higher quality it is, the better decisions can be taken. And this can only benefit the organization. The second bit is infrastructure. We have the operative system, which is how you get your, for example, how you get your users, and templating, tooling, permissions, compliance, all this that will help your research actually happen. Otherwise, it's like having a car and you don't put gas in it. And the third point is building a voice. Don't shy away from giving counsel and from stepping up and saying, this is what I believe as a researcher in different levels. You don't need to go super high to only express your voice. You can do it in different levels. In a conversation with a close stakeholder, presenting to the whole team, presenting to the company, you should always have a voice, especially as a first researcher. The key here is that we abandon the finder mindset where we only go and look stuff out, or we try to find out stuff and conduct research, and we become builders of a whole practice, of something larger than ourselves. This way, for all those future first researchers that might appear and pop up in companies, hopefully soon, with this shift of paradigm we are seeing, this way researchers and research can be successful inside companies.